Hello and welcome to another Football Manager 2015 video. I know it's been a little while since I've recorded my last one. I think it was around the turn of the year, but I've just been so busy since the new year that I haven't really had a chance to get too involved with the whole video making thing. I have been playing Football Manager a little bit, but I just haven't really had time to make any videos. Anyway, I thought what I would do for to ease myself back in would be maybe a couple of short hints and tips videos. These are just general hints that I've got myself from playing the game over the years. They're not like hard and fast rules, they're just hints that I'd like to chuck out there. So without further ado, I'd like to just get stuck in. The first thing I would like to say is, if we head over to staff and we look at assistant manager, I've touched on this before, you want to make sure that whatever happens, your assistant manager has high tactical knowledge. I would recommend this for two reasons. One is for doing opposition instructions and all that kind of jazz pre-match if you don't want to get into that yourself. The second is during the match, you're going to get feedback from your assistant manager. If you know when you're playing the match and there's the assistant's feedback section that you can get to. I'm not going to go and show you that now. You should know it already, really. But yeah, you want high tactical knowledge for that reason. You want to make the most of his feedback, really. So that's the first little hint I would give. The second is, if we go to my tactics, just ignore my actual tactics. Not everything's not set up properly. This is just from my last game anyway. But as you'll see here, I think this is my reserve keeper or my backup keeper. I don't have him on the bench. I never ever take a keeper on the bench with me, and I know that might sound a little strange, but hear me out. In my time playing this game, the amount of times I've seen a keeper sent off or injured to the point where you have to come off is so small. It never happens. Maybe like once in 3 seasons or 4 seasons, your keeper will need to be replaced on the pitch. I've never subbed out a keeper because of poor performance. I don't know why. I just never have. So for that reason, I find that it's just better to fill the bench with a player that's more likely to be needed, like another attacker or something who can actually change a game, rather than just wasting a spot on the bench with a spare keeper. So that's my second hint I would like to give away. But I mean, like I said before, these are not hard, fast rules, but these are things that I've generally picked up after playing this game for so long. The second little hint I'd like to give is when it comes to scouting. I don't think this is on the older Football Managers, but it is on this one, and it's something I've started using more and more. If we go to assignments, now you can see here I have my scout specifically on this assignment. Can we look at it? Yeah, we can. As you can see, right, you can set a position. So if you see up here, you can say I'm looking for a striker for the first team. So I've told my scouts that I want a striker who's ready for the first team. I've specified the parameters for ability. So current ability 2 stars, potential 3.5. I've said he has to have finishing of 14 or above, agility of 14 and above, and pace of 14 and above as like a basic. That's the very basics that I want. Oh yeah, and age 18 to 28 of any cost. I find this really useful if you're struggling because you have one weak position. I'm not too happy with my strikers at the moment. They're not scoring. They're not particularly good. I mean, he's a decent young striker, but as you can see, he's got 1 goal in 8 appearances. We've got this guy who I've sold because he's not that young, and I like strikers to be pacey. None of these are pacey. So yeah, I'm looking for a decent striker. So what I did was create a new assignment. I know a lot of you will have already seen this anyway, but even though I knew I've always known it's there since I've started playing. I think it might have been there last year's, but in a toned down way. Anyway, I've always known it's been there, but I've just never used it, and it actually is quite a decent feature. So you go first team player, or you can even look. I mean, the options here. If you're not making use of this, maybe you should consider it, because let's have a look. Select a position on the pitch, strike it. See, so he's outgoing, so I'm going to select him, and then this is where you can specify everything here. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. But if you're looking for if you've got an outgoing player, or you're looking for a specific section of the team, I would highly recommend this during the season, because you're going to get a lot better results than if you were to just go out and do it yourself, I think. Because as you can see here, I've filtered the strikers, and I've been looking through them, but I haven't really found anything that I want or anything that's like within my budget and reasonable. So I've sent my scouts out to have another look in this fashion. What else have I got here? So I've got this little list of things I wanted to cover, so I'm just having a quick look through. Okay, the next thing I would say is if you go to board and you want to, I don't know, let's say build new stadium. Oh, I didn't actually expect them to agree. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Say, like, what's just happened, they haven't agreed to my request. I have the option to leak to the press, and in some circumstances, you also have the option to give an ultimatum to the board saying, if you don't grant this request, then I will quit. In both of those circumstances, I would never advise doing that. It never works out well for you. I don't know if if you get to Alex Ferguson levels of job security, if then they give in. But in my experience, they will always just sack you or demand an apology if you leak to the press or whatever. So my advice is just never ever do it. It's a waste of time and it'll potentially ruin your job at the club. Okay, the final thing I want to quickly just dive into before I end this first part of my hints and tips videos is when you're looking for players. Quite often, the players that you see when you go to your scouting section and start filtering, you can only see certain players that your scouts have gone and recommended or gone and looked at themselves. But I find a good way to try and find cheap players that maybe are a little bit more off the radar is to maybe, let's click someone random, go to the countries, go to the under-21s, and just browse through them. I mean, like, just cycle through them like this, look through the national teams. I mean, see, you've got here, like, Nigeria under-21s. You're going to find some players that are maybe a little bit off the radar. And then when you see one that you think looks promising, I mean, I always organise them by value as well, by the way. So surf through some of the unders, and maybe some teams have like under-21s as well you can look at, and maybe some senior teams also of smaller countries who might have players that are quite young in their senior team. Okay, he's at Dortmund. Quite often, I think you find players that you wouldn't necessarily have come across otherwise, and then you find one that looks alright, like this guy, I don't know. I'm not saying he looks alright, but then you would go, like, get scout report, and you can start scouting him, and that way you can get a good deal on young players that you wouldn't have found otherwise. I actually do this a hell of a lot. Sometimes I will just take, like, 20 minutes, half an hour, just look through national teams. Quite often I'll do teams like Sweden, Denmark, Norway, because they often have players that are good value for money. I've found some gems there by doing that. In fact, actually, I've signed one recently for there he is, for Marseille. I mean, those of you who, I know some of you will probably like look up lists of wonder kids, but I never do. I like to find them myself because it's more satisfying. And this guy I found just by looking through the Norway. I can't remember. It must have been the under-19s, I guess, or maybe it was the under-21s. Yeah, the under-21s. I found him. I mean, look at him. He's like an absolute gem. I guarantee you, he's probably one of the biggest wonder kids on the game. And I found him just by looking at the unders. And as you can see, I got him for £1 million, and then loaned him right back so that he gets more first team experience. But that's the kind of thing you can find by looking through the unders and looking through lesser known nations or nations that aren't regarded as like football giants. You can get quality players like that for 1 million. I mean, you can't complain with 1 million. And before, oh, actually, yeah, as well, I've got the latest update I downloaded off one of the forums to update all the transfers. This guy is another guy who was like an amazing wonder kid that you could snap up for next to nothing if you found him. But as you can see on my update, he's already at Real Madrid. Anyway, I think that is just about that for this video. I've got a few more hints and tips that I've got rattling around in my brain that I'm gonna bash out in another video at some point. Anyway, I hope these have maybe helped some of you or made some of you have a little think, or whatever. It's just me sharing my opinion on how to play the game anyway. You don't have to follow any of these tips, but they're just things that I've kind of cottoned onto after a few years of playing Football Manager. Anyway, thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe, comment, whether you like it or hate it, all that kind of jazz. And I will see you next time.